Hey guys, so you know this channel is all about the young married life and faith and just how those work together. And so in saying that, I don't want to share just all the high moments of life, but I want to share a little bit of the rocky, a little bit of the lows, and help encourage y'all in that too. And so that's kind of what today's video is about. I have a high, like some really good news, but I also have some things that I wish someone would have sat me down and talked to me about before I got married. And so that is where Blake and I are right now. But before I dig too deep into that, let me tell you the big news that is going on. Drum roll. Maybe. We are moving. We finally know where we are moving to, and I want to just stop and pause for a second and really thank God for this blessing, because Blake graduates in May and we have been praying since last fall just for a job opportunity and for God to open that door and for him to lead us to a place that Blake will love and enjoy. And distance wise, I really didn't want it to be super duper far away from family. I knew if that happened, then I trusted my husband's leadership and I trusted God, but I wanted to be somewhat close to family. And so it was a long journey of just praying and trusting God. And honestly, from my side, worrying and then being like, nope, giving this back to God. I trust God. I trust my husband. And we have finally found out that we are moving to Fort Worth. So Fort Worth is in the Dallas area, and that is totally doable for me. And we actually have Blake's starting date, which is June 1st. Which is so close. That means we're moving next month. We're moving in May. And so this stage of life, Blake and I have been dreaming about this stage probably since our first year of marriage. Now, I didn't mind, me and Blake were both in school when we got married. I didn't mind that. But Blake has always just been super excited and ready to enter this stage, to be out of school and to be working full-time at a job he loves. And so we are finally here. And in our heads, we're like, man, he's gonna graduate one day. He's gonna be working full-time. We're gonna be making really good money. Life will be easier because we will just be making more money. And I do want to say, God has been totally faithful in all of our over 2.5 years of marriage. We've never struggled with not having money to buy food or pay for rent or any of that. God has provided, but we just assumed that when we got out of the school stage that life would feel or be a little bit different, because that degree is going to allow him to make more money and work full time. And we'd be real adults in a way. We are adulting now, but we felt like it'd be more real adulting. And I can just say from that statement that the truth part of it is the real adulting, because I have never felt more broke in my life than I do right now. And that's not because we don't have money in the bank. That is because I am learning what it takes to first move to an area that's more expensive and what it takes to buy a house. And so Blake and I, we're pretty modest spenders. We don't waste a ton of money. We try to watch our money and how much we spend. My AC just turned on, and so I'm gonna go turn that off just in case you can hear it. Okay, sorry about that. But I was just saying, Blake and I are not huge spenders. We do watch what we're spending, and we budgeted probably our first year of marriage. We kind of stepped away from it, and then we just started budgeting again recently. And so while we didn't spend tons of money just wasting it and going on big vacations and all of that, we still we're pretty free with our money, with going out to eat or going on dates and just not worrying too much about the money that we had in the bank. But this is what I wish I knew, because when we were first getting married, I guess we had the goal of when he graduated and got a job, full-time job, we would be able to get a house and we just start that whole stage of life. But what I'm learning is all about what it takes to buy a house. And that is what I wish that someone would have sat me down and talked to me about. because there is so much that goes into buying a house. And not only is it buying a house, it's even just like moving to an area that's more expensive. So Fort Worth is, for what we pay now, it's about twice as expensive, living cost wise. And so just living in a place there is going to be about double what we pay now, which was a big like, whoa, that's a lot. And then we also just have more, we'll have a little bit more bills, and some of our bills will be more expensive because he's out of school, which is okay. But it's just all of those costs we didn't recognize would like add up. And so now we have like this much cost, or we're spending this much. But once he gets his full-time job, it's like we're going to be spending this much, but not really changing our lifestyle. We'll have more bills, we'll have more things to pay for, and it won't be much different than what we have now. So, side note, like, be content where you are. It's really easy to want to look into the future and be like, oh, I can't wait for the stage. I can't wait till God gives us this blessing. And now we're here, and it is a huge blessing. We are so excited. But we're realizing it's not going to be too much different finance-wise than what we are doing now. And so just being thankful in the moment. But these are some of the things that I wish I would have known about, and I'm not going to teach these things to you because I still don't know everything. I am still learning. We are learning. Blake and I stayed up until 2 a.m. last night looking up homes to rent. So I will throw that out there. We are not buying a house yet. We are not prepared for that. Everything that goes into buying a house and money-wise, like, we're just not there yet. And so we've finally been like, we want to buy a house, but we can't right now. That wouldn't be a smart decision. And so we are wanting to rent a house, which is good. That's a step from where we are now. We're in an apartment and we're ready to have our own space, and just our own little privacy of our own house. And so even that, just looking into things that went into buying a house that I wish I would have known, was just like taxes and property taxes. With Blake's new job, we see this figure of what they told him that they're going to pay him, which we were super excited about. But then as we are learning about taxes in general, just taxes in general, not even, let's take out the property taxes for like buying a house. Taxes in general take out a big chunk of what he makes. And so we're not super sure how much it's going to take, so I don't really want to give y'all a number, but it's somewhere between like 20 maybe, and if it's really bad, 30%. Somewhere in that rate is like how much money will be taken out of what Blake makes. And so that's just like a really big chunk in itself. And so we didn't know that at first. We just saw the amount he was going to make and we're like, woo, let's go on vacation. Let's go do something fun. But we're just learning more about what's taken out and what is actually ours. And so taxes is one thing I wish I would have known a little bit more about. And then when it comes to buying a house, it's just like property taxes. That affects like what area you live in. It can be more expensive or cheaper. And even when you pay off a house, you will always pay property taxes. So you need to know what the property tax is. That's important. Another thing is just like loans to buy a house. Like the down payment that goes on it too is super confusing. And it depends like what loan, and I don't even know if I'm using all the right words, but some say if you put less than 20%, some say if you put less than 10%, like you have to pay an extra like fee for mortgage insurance. And so you want to have maybe 10 to 20% down, because then you don't have to pay that other fee. And then other people are like, oh, no, it's okay. The average person only puts down 7%. But there's just like all of these things that like we were scrambling trying to figure out. And so we're still learning right now, but since we know we're not buying a house today or like this month, we don't have to like be super stressed, but we're gonna spend this next year learning what it takes to buy a house and what's smart and how much we need to save. And so the down payment too is just something that, depending on the house you wanna buy, I don't wanna say the range of houses we are looking at, but it's just like, okay, if we wanna spend this much on a house, we wanna put ideally we want a 20% down, but let's just even say like a 10% down. that plus all of the costs that it goes to get into a house is just like, it has been mind-blowing because I just had no idea. I thought getting a house would be fairly easy. I was looking like on houses online, and it was like your rently pay would be around this much, and I was like, that's like how much we pay for an apartment there or for a house there to rent it. Like, why would we rent a house for this much if we could buy a house? But that's when I looked into buying a house, and there really is a lot more fees that come into buying a house. It was not the same price that it will be for us to rent. Also, if things break, that's not for us to fix. That'll be for our rent property people, so that helps too. And then just another thing that I wish I would have known more about is credit. We knew we needed a credit history like when we got married, but basically what happened was I started my credit, and then we were going to start Blake's about a month later, and then we kind of forgot, and then a few years passed, and so Blake finally, we just started his credit not quite a year ago, but within this past year we've started his credit. And here's the tricky thing, one thing that I've learned in marriage too, is even the place that we live now, I have really good credit, which I thought would somehow reflect my husband because we have the same finances. We like have the same bank account. We're all one. If I have good credit, that means that like he should be good on his side, right? No, because since he just started his credit, his is just not super high yet because it takes a while to, grow that. And Blake is the one who makes more money. And so while he is making the money, when you rent places, they normally make you have like somewhere what you make monthly 2 to 3 times more than what that rent is, just so they have security that you can pay the bills, right? And so that's going to be Blake's side. Blake will be making that money. But then my side is a good credit. But some places, I don't know if this is all, some places don't care. And so where we live now, we had to pay like a risk fee because Blake's credit wasn't very high. And so that was another thing, like, oof, when you were first getting married, you need to get on credit if you do not have it, because we felt like this time was so far away. And now that it's here, we're like, oh, let's start getting all this, but we should have been learning about this from the very beginning, or I wish we would have learned about this. Even though it didn't feel like it was important at the time, we would have been prepared when he got his job and for this move, and instead we're just like listening to everyone and YouTube and everything that we can to learn we're doing. And so the last thing that I really have to say with all of this is that save your money. If you are not married, or if you were newly married, you're about to be married, and you didn't know about all this, some of you may be like, Chelsea, oh my gosh, like how did you not know that? I just didn't. I don't know. I'm hoping this will help someone. But going back now, I feel like if Blake and I knew what we've already learned right now, we would have been more intentional and found more ways to save to buy a house, because that takes time. In our almost 3 years of marriage, 2.5 years of marriage, we probably could have saved a good chunk of money to go ahead and help get into a house. And now I'm not saying that buying a house is just like better than living in a rent home or an apartment. It's just something we want. I always tell Blake that I never want our heart to be the American dream. I don't want to strive to live for the American dream. And what I mean by that is that like I want to be thankful with what God has given me, and I want to use what he's given me, and we really want to give our money to people who are in need. Like Blake especially has a very big heart to give. And so we want a house because we want a big area to where we can invite people over and serve people. That is a huge thing, is just serving people and using our gifts in that way. So that's why we want a house. But in times like now where I got really excited that we were going to get a house, maybe, and then we learned about it and it's like, we are not getting a house, and we may not even get a house in a year. It may take 2 years. It may take 3. We have no idea what God's going to do from this time until that time. but we're at least learning, and I just want to be thankful for what God has given us now. And He did give us a job, and it's near family, and it's going to provide for us plenty. We're not going to be hurting. So I want to be thankful for that, but I wish I would have known to save more. And then budget. Budgeting just goes with saving. I wish we would have stayed on our budget our whole marriage because now that we're back into budgeting, I mark everything that we spend, and you just really see where you spend money. Whereas before, we were probably spending money and like knowing, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done this, or maybe I shouldn't have bought this, but I didn't see the impact because we had money in the bank. But now I see the impact because each month we go over what we spend, and it's like, yeah, I did this, or oh my goodness, we have these 2 subscriptions that we're paying for that we don't even use. And so budgeting is super important. Anyways, that is all I have to say. But I do, if y'all know anything more about like buying a house or mortgage or interest rates or any of what I just talked about that you would like want to just give me or give Blake and I your wisdom, please comment below. Please message me, go to my Instagram, DM me. Like, we are in a time where we want to learn as much as we can. And so if y'all just want to share anything about that, I would very much appreciate it. And we will be going to we will be going to look at homes to rent, hopefully this next weekend. I don't really know with the corona. I didn't think that through, but we at least will do drive-by the houses that we're looking at to rent. And so next week I may show a little bit of that and what that is like and explain that process. But thank y'all so much for watching. Please subscribe below just to see more of what it's like to be young and married and trust in the Lord through every step of the way. Thanks, guys.